Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Melissa here. Melissa, you're somebody that's really helped a lot of people's lives and improve their health. And you've done this through your cookbooks, your content on social media, and really just bringing this Whole30 diet and this now it's become really a lifestyle to the forefront and helping people understand what foods to take in, how to actually maintain their health much better. And you've scaled this through licensing deals. You've had products in Costco, and you've actually created the recipes and the way for people to do this, and also given them an easier way as well to get into the system. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So just going back to the beginning, like how did your interest in the world of health and and kind of wanting to help other people in that space, like how did that passion begin?
It's probably not where you think it begins. It actually came when I got out of rehab for the second time for my drug addiction. So when I was in my 20s, I spent 5 years addicted to drugs. And when I got out of rehab the second time after a relapse, I knew I had to change everything about my life if I wanted to make my recovery stick. And I asked myself, what would a healthy person with healthy habits do? And the first thing that popped into my mind is they would get up in the morning and go to the gym. So, fitness really helped me kind of maintain my recovery from fitness. Of course, I started paying attention to what I ate and I started eating what I thought was healthier. I, became certified to help train people with kettlebells, and it sort of just came from there. And the Whole30 was spawned kind of by that idea of self-experimenting and making myself, healthier.
Mhm. So were you already thinking like, I mean, you're probably experimenting with different types of foods. Like, how did the formation of the initial like Whole30 diet even happen?
I know. So Whole30 started as a two-person self-experiment. This was in 2009, and the concept of a paleo diet was kind of coming to the surface. And so my original Whole30 co-founder had been doing research into the inflammatory properties of certain foods, and the idea that even the stuff that we might consider healthy could be having a negative impact on your health if you're sensitive to those foods. So while sitting around after a difficult Olympic lifting session, we were talking about, well, what would it be like if we kind of gave up these foods for a whole month? What would happen to my athletic performance and my recovery? And so we did it right then and there. We said, okay, let's start. Let's eat only whole foods and kind of give up some of these foods that could be problematic and see what happens. And the next 30 days were so incredibly transformative for me that I decided to write about it on my little CrossFit training blog. And that was really the birth of the Whole30 as we know it today.
Mhm. And so you just felt like that there were specific foods that were not whole that needed to be taken out of the traditional of like a lot of people's way they were eating and stuff, and they did, and kind of came up with your own version of this and tried it out on yourself, and you're like, wow, this is great. Can you hear
You
me?
are frozen. I
One
don't know if
second.
it's on my end or your end.
Let me switch my Wi-Fi. One sec. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, now I can.
I think I'm having a little bit of Wi-Fi issue, but it should be fine. Um,
Okay.
so so Melissa, so this specific like the way you styled this type of like diet, was it just inspired by there were certain foods that you were eating that you felt better initially? Like, why make it like around these whole foods?
Yeah. So again, the kind of foundation of the Whole30 came from the idea that there may be foods in your diet that are having a negative effect on your health in ways that you don't associate with your diet. And so elimination diets have been around since the 1920s. Many doctors still consider them the gold standard for identifying food sensitivities. And that's what the Whole30 is at its heart. We gave up foods that are commonly problematic for 30 days. And then at the end of those 30 days, you reintroduce those foods very carefully and systematically one at a time. And that really gives you a blueprint for the foods that work best in your unique body and lets you take that information to craft your own joyful, sustainable diet long term.
Hmm. And how important do you think your background in sports nutrition and I think you have a certification there, like how important was that to shaping this Whole30?
So, I don't have a background in medicine. I'm not a registered dietitian. What was really important is that, of course, when two people do a self experiment and get amazing results, you're like, cool, that's, really impressive. When I wrote about it on my blog, I had about 100 people in July 2009 decide to do the same 30-day experiment, and they reported equally stunning and dramatically similar, remarkably similar transformations. At that point, now I start consulting with PhDs and medical doctors and registered dietitians and licensed healthcare practitioners to really make sure that the program has a foundation in science, that it's health promoting from a micronutrition and macronutritional perspective. And so I'm still leaning on those people to this day to make sure that the program is as health promoting as possible and grounded in current research.
And so as this started to take off and you wrote about it online and you got more people interested in it, how did you start to evaluate and like view that your future strategies for content? Because that time blogging was really popular, but now it's evolved into all different types.
I know. I love that you think that I had a strategy, because I didn't have any strategy. I didn't, for the first 2 years or the first year and a half, this was just my side hustle. I had a full time job. And, but, I was hearing amazing stories from people who had tried the Whole30. I was giving everything away for free. So I would work my 9 to 5, I would come home, I would write blog posts every night, kind of helping people through the thought process or creating resources for them for the program. On the weekends, I was traveling to various CrossFit gyms and giving nutrition seminars, talking to people about the Whole30. So I didn't really have a strategy at this point. I just knew that I wanted to help people, and this program seemed to work really well for the vast majority of people who completed it. And then my goal was, okay, well, how can I help them succeed even more? And it wasn't until the middle of 2010 that I thought maybe this could be an actual business, like my actual job. And I quit my full time job to take it, Whole30.
Mhm. So when you quit, like, that's kind of a burn the boats moment in a sense. Like, how were you thinking you were going to really monetize this and make this something that you could live off of?
Yeah, I again didn't really have much of a plan. My degree is in business. So, I mean, I had a background at least in running a business and creating a business, but I quickly figured out in the earliest days of Whole30 that if we didn't start creating some passive income, we were going to burn ourselves into the ground. We were traveling for these nutrition seminars, charging people $100 a pop. We were very successful with them, but we were the own rate limiting factor here because unless we were traveling, we weren't making money, and you can only travel so many weekends in a year. So that was when I created the very first kind of ebook for Whole30. This was back in 2010 or 2011. I created a PDF to guide and lead people through the program, kind of what you would find in my latest book. I had the audacity to sell it for $39.99, and we sold a lot of them because it was the only kind of resource on the market that was comprehensive to lead people through the program, and the demand was really high. So the concept of passive income came in pretty early, and obviously that was a big part of our income strategy.
Mhm. And you just made it an ebook at the time.
Yeah, this was before I had been approached by any publishers. It was before even I kind of had an idea that someday I might want to write a book about Whole30, but it was just sort of a nugget in my head. And what we could do and produce and get online and sell was an ebook. So that's what we did.
Hmm. And why name it Whole30? Like, because of the 30-day period and the types of foods whole, like, and put, like, why kind of put it together?
I know. I crowdsourced the name. The original blog post I wrote in 2009 was called Change Your Life in 30 Days because the elimination phase is 30 days. And so I was joking with my community doing the program that that's kind of a mouthful and what should we call it? And one of my community members said, why don't you call it Whole30? You've said it changed your whole life and you're eating whole unprocessed foods for 30 days. So I think that should be the name. And in hindsight, the program itself is closer to 40 or 45 days when you add reintroduction. But Whole30, just kind of stuck.
Yeah, I like it. I think a lot of people like it too. It's a good name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you had this ebook that was successful at that point. Did you start getting reached out to by publishers and did you like how did this part of you evolving into making all these different, health related books happen?
So we were approached by a publisher, a very small publisher out of Las Vegas who had recently had success with another book from someone kind of in our circle. And we had a meeting and they said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, yes, absolutely. We've been doing enough 8-hour Whole30 seminars at CrossFit gyms that I basically had the material already. I had been refining the material in person and I was ready to sit down and write a book. I didn't know anything about publishing. I didn't know anything about publishing contracts. Looking back, I mean, it was ridiculous, the terms that I accepted. I asked for a small advance And I should have asked for so much more. I mean, I didn't know what I didn't know, but they published the first book. It made the New York Times bestseller list, and that opened the door to my current relationship with my agent and current publishers. So at least for that, I'm really grateful. And the book was good. It helped a lot of people, and it gave people, I think, the resources and sort of the background they needed to be successful with the program. So it was definitely a step in the right direction.
Mhm. So it worked out, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think led to it becoming a New York Times bestseller? Was it just, did you do this really like major grassroots marketing effort to just get this to everybody in all the sessions you've taught before? Like, how did you get it to that point?
Yeah, we did not do any marketing. And I'm going to tell you that to this day, Ben, Whole30 does not do digital marketing around the program. We don't run Google ads. We don't run Facebook ads. Our biggest, even today, our biggest sort of growth is word of mouth. People do the program and they get incredible results and they want to talk about it with everybody in their life, and they talk about it, and then those people get interested, or people will notice. They'll say, what have you been doing? I haven't seen you in a while, but like, you look fantastic, or you seem so happy. And the program just spreads from there. And to this day, word of mouth is still, I think, our biggest lever in terms of growth. Obviously now, social media is a much bigger thing than it was in 2009. We have a huge email list now, so that's another avenue. So of course we've kind of expanded, and we do a lot of sort of organic marketing. And I've also had a lot of media at this point, which is nice. But yeah, word of mouth is still, I think, where it's at in terms of getting new people into the program.
It's amazing to hear that even today, word of mouth is just so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think it's often overlooked in the world of social media and digital marketing, but I mean, I think that is your most solid and reliable source of growth, is if you can continue to get people who want to talk about the program and share it with everybody they know.
So you shifted more into a lot of doing a lot of different books. Your first one, you mentioned you had a lot of like the content already done. So how did that evolve in terms of coming up with new ideas, new topics? When you even put together an entire cookbook on with all these whole oriented recipes, how did that book strategy and eventually the bunch of different ones you do, how did that progress?
Yeah, I think we have 8 or maybe it's 9 Whole30 books now. I have to count. But there have been a lot since 2012, my first book. I've always said that I have never had a good idea in my whole life. Every single idea I've had for Whole30 has come from my community. So I put this first book out. It was really helpful in, I think, exposing more people to the Whole30. And I thought it did a pretty good job of walking people through the program. But I started to hear feedback from people saying that book was amazing. I am all in. I need more help meal planning. I need more help grocery shopping. I need more help with cravings. I need more help talking to friends and family about what I'm doing because they don't get it. And so as I started to hear about these pain points that people were feeling with Whole30, particularly the elimination phase, I was like, I could write a whole book about that. And so the Whole30, which was kind of our first flagship book, came out in 2015, and it was like the field manual for how to do the program. It included 100 recipes, an extensive FAQ, and again, that came out of the community's need. The cookbooks came out of the community saying, I'd like more recipes and I'd like them to be fast and easy, or I'd like them to be slow cooker or instant pot, or I want to use Whole30 recipes to socialize with my friends and family. All of those ideas have come from the community. And it's just been me staying really closely connected and listening and saying, like, yeah, we can do that for you.
So it's all just a crowdsourced effort.
I mean, yeah, I still stay very closely connected to the Whole30 community and my community. If you ever DM me personally on my Instagram, it's only me. I do not have a team on my personal Instagram account. And I think that really helps me to, stay in touch, to kind of read between the lines with what people might be asking for or what they might need help with, and be able to create resources to fulfill that need.
What are some of like your favorite stories or feedback you've gotten of people that have done like Whole30 and used your recipes and just it's really helped them a lot? Like I'm sure you've got a couple that have really resonated with you over the years.
I have so many. I met someone in Costco. I was in Costco this past May, debuting our Whole30 marinated chicken, and a woman and her daughter came up. The daughter was probably 13, I think. And the daughter said, I'm in the middle of my first Whole30, and my anxiety is so much better. I used to be so anxious every morning when I went to school, and it's just like gone. And the mom was crying. The mom was in tears. Like, I have a brand new daughter. It's remarkable the changes that dietary impact can have. I remember Jerry, who was in her 70s, who was so upset that she could no longer take her cat for walks around the neighborhood. She had this like cat stroller. And after her Whole30, she sent us a picture of her out on a walk with her cat. She said, I am pain free for the first time in so many years, and I'm able to go for walks again. I mean, I hear stories like that every single week, and they are very much why I do what I do.
I'm sure you could stay pretty motivated hearing stories like that every week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much an impact driven CEO. So to hear stories like that and to be able to kind of pass those along to other community members in my team, just that really fills me up.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So how did the Costco opportunity originate? And why did you choose to do the chicken there, and where do you see that kind of evolving to?
I know. So we have Whole30 branded marinated chicken in Costco stores in the Southeast and Texas region right now. And I've had meetings with many other regions of Costco and hope to see it nationwide within the next few months. That came as a result of we have our own meal delivery company made by Whole30 Meals that delivers nationwide. We had a salad dressing line for a little while during the pandemic that unfortunately we had to close because of supply chain issues and cost increases. But this isn't our first foray into products. And when we were approached by a manufacturer who was a huge Whole30 brand fan, and they proposed this kind of marinated chicken because, of course, protein is sort of one of the hardest things, I think, for people to cook when they're cooking at home. And if we could, again, solve that pain point, we want to. And we really like accessibility is one of our core values. So getting a product into like a Costco or a Target or a Walmart was always sort of our initial desire. And so we started working with this manufacturer. They happen to have a meeting with Southeast region Costco stores coming up because it's very hard to get meetings with them. And we were able to get those into stores very quickly, and they've been really successful.
And do you see that how do you see that expanding?
Yeah, so I see it expanding, of course, across Costco stores. We're already test running different flavors and different varieties. I would love to see some version of that product and other products in other grocery stores. We do have something coming up in January that I can't tell you about yet, but it's an expansion of that line, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, I would really love to see Whole30 products in every store nationwide because our logo is something that people know they can trust. Whether they're doing the Whole30 or not, they know what that logo stands for. They know the dietary values behind it. And I think it only serves to strengthen our relationship with the community when we're offering them so many different ways to succeed with the program.
I agree. I think it's a really good way to. I think it's a great idea to create products like this that are really protein oriented. So
Yeah,
it's a big part of what people want today, and they do trust your brand. So you got to a point. I mean, now you're much further past this, but you got to an initial point where you got a million Instagram hashtags that were doing Whole30. I mean, what did that feel like to get to that kind of caliber of people interested in what you're doing?
I know. I think that happened in 2000, maybe 2013. It was pretty early. And it was hashtags were more meaningful back then. People were more deliberate with their choice of hashtags. They weren't using hashtags to sort of spam every single niche that it could possibly entail and get noticed. But it was pretty amazing when we hit a million followers on the Whole30 recipes feed. The first kind of major, news coverage when Cosmopolitan and all of these other magazines started writing about Whole30 and the trend that was taking over Instagram. It was really fun. It was certainly very gratifying to see. And again, for me, that just translates to more people are finding the program and more people are able to change their lives through the program, which is really at the heart of what we do.
Mhm. So, I mean, your approach to content's also evolved over time. Like, how do you view today your content on social media? What do you try to put out there that makes you guys different?
Yeah, of course, on the Whole30 side, I have an entire content team and they are so good at their jobs and they absolutely love what they do. We have a mix of content that we know our audience likes. So recipes are hugely popular. Everybody on our social media feeds really love when we share recipes. So we do that pretty regularly. We love sharing user generated content, community shout outs or testimonials so that people can come to the page and see themselves represented. and maybe see that other people just like them have found success with the program. We're always sharing resources about the Whole30 just as sort of evergreen to kind of get you started. If there's a topical trend that comes along, we like to have fun with it. And Betsy, who's our social media producer, will recreate some really fun trends and kind of make it Whole30. So we have a lot of fun over there. And of course, social media is always changing. So our team is really always staying on top of how people are using social media and what they want to see from each platform.
It hasn't really been that powerful of a tool for you to drive sales and, like on a business standpoint, like has it really mattered that like so much for you guys?
When we started Whole30, the primary way that I was communicating with people were online forums, if you remember those, right? CrossFit had a big online forum. People were incredibly well connected, and that was a big part of why Whole30 grew in the earliest days. I was very closely connected to CrossFit, and because the gyms were connected to each other through this forum, it allowed the program to grow and spread in a way that we couldn't without that digital connection. And I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have businesses or successful businesses these days without social media. However, there is a risk in putting your business success in someone else's hands, in another company's hands. Meaning, if Meta goes away or Meta decides that they don't like having our account anymore, we have to have other ways to communicate with our audience that are not social media dependent. So we're always looking to strengthen that connection. Products are a really good example. Our email list is another good example, and not put too many eggs in one particular basket.
Do you see like now the product side of things like really growing much more because the Costco opportunity is a major opportunity? You mentioned you tried the dressing idea, but I think that if you have the success with Costco, I mean that opens up a lot more that can be done. Is that like kind of where you're going to put a lot more focus going forward?
Yeah, we definitely are. I think products are one way for us to own the relationship with our customer and to be able to provide more convenience products that will help people who have busy schedules or working parents be able to do the Whole30 with more ease. So yeah, proof of concept is in that first region of Costco. When we went in to the Southeast District and exceeded every sales goal they had set for us, it makes it easier to go to other regions and say, look, we're already doing a fantastic job here in the South, where the Costco buyer kind of wondered if we would do well because in her words, people don't always want healthy stuff when they come into Costco. So if we can succeed in that region, I think we can absolutely succeed in every other. And we've got that good proof of concept now.
Hmm. Definitely. So, what do you aspire to do at this point? Like, if you had to break down, let's say some short-term goals, some long-term goals, like let's say over the next 5 to 10 years, what would that be like?
Yeah, I mean, I still love writing, and I definitely have more ideas for Whole30 books. So I think that's certainly on the table. We are expanding our digital footprint and are in the process of creating communities and online courses that again are outside of social media, that are perhaps they're more private. They're an environment in which we can control, I think, that the comments, and I think they can make people feel a little bit more safe being vulnerable, talking about some of the things that come up when you do a Whole30. So we're definitely focused on that. Of course, as mentioned, we want to continue to grow our product base in Costco and other stores. I mean, I think that's enough to carry us through at least the next 3 years.
Well, that was all the questions that I had. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this. I think what you've already built is really impressive and definitely has helped a lot of people. I mean, you mentioned a couple of the stories here. I've heard the stories and the testimonials, and it's great to see that. And I just look forward to seeing how you're going to scale this in all different directions and help many more people. So, wish you much success, Melissa, and thanks for coming on.